Woman tips waitress, then realizes what she's done. Whitney smiles to herself thinking back to the previous night. It was such a good night. She was able to spend time with her family over some seriously delicious food. Aside from the miserable and rude waitress, everybody had a fantastic time. But now, the morning after her meal out, Whitney checks her bank account, and as soon as she logs on, she gasps out in horror. Was this some kind of joke? The miserable and rude waitress had well and truly scammed her. Whitney Anderson was an ordinary woman from a small town in Ohio. A single parent to 3 children, Whitney worked hard to ensure her children were happy and healthy at all times. So when Whitney treated her family to a meal at their local restaurant, never in a million years did she think it would be the catalyst to a horrific nightmare. Whitney was aware of the struggle of being a working single parent. Every dollar she earned, she put towards her kids, and very rarely did she have anything left over to treat herself or her 3 children. So when this doting mother received a bonus at work, straight away she knew she had to take her family for a meal out. But she was soon going to seriously regret it. It was a cold Friday night when Whitney and her family headed over to their local restaurant. It was a gorgeous Mexican place, and Whitney had been a regular there for a good 10 years. As the happy family walked inside the restaurant, Whitney had no idea her trust was about to be seriously betrayed. Whitney and her family arrived at the restaurant and sat themselves down at a table. The manager came over and greeted Whitney and her children. Then, the waitress came over. Whitney thought this waitress was going to be a kind, friendly, and outgoing server. But Whitney was way off. Whitney had been a regular at this restaurant for 10 years, so she had become pretty friendly with all the staff. But the young woman that was waitressing Whitney's table was somebody that Whitney had never seen before. Instead of a cheery smile, this waitress had a frown slapped between her cheeks. Maybe she's tired, Whitney thought to herself. But she had no idea what this waitress was up to. Whitney knew all too well just how long and tiresome being a waitress can be. You see, Whitney herself paid her way through college by waiting tables. Because of this, Whitney was always happy to tip. She knew how much a simple tip can mean to a struggling waitress. All she asked in return was service with a smile. But this waitress was about to turn Whitney's world upside down. Once the waitress took Whitney and her family's order, she retreated into the back. The family continued to laugh and talk over their drinks. The waitress swiftly returned, still looking as miserable as ever, and handed Whitney and her family their food. Everything went smoothly, or so Whitney thought. Whitney and her family had finished their meal, and after licking her lips for the final time, Whitney asked for the bill. Although her waitress wasn't exactly the best, she still decided to tip her. But Whitney was going to seriously regret doing this. Whitney paid for her meal and left a $10 tip using her credit card. As she swiped it through the card machine, she saw a smirk creep across the waitress's face. Whitney didn't know what the waitress had found so amusing, but a terrible feeling hit the pit of her stomach. After her card payment had gone through successfully, the waitress handed Whitney back her credit card and walked away, with an eerily creepy smile on her face. Whitney brushed the strange waitress off, and she and her family then left the restaurant, thinking that was it. It was the end of a beautiful and much-needed meal. But the next day, Whitney was going to wake up to a horrible surprise. The following day, Whitney woke up ready for a relaxing day. She had a few errands to run, but for the time being, she was going to chill out at home. She remembered she needed to pay the electric bill, so she checked her bank account. As soon as she logged on, she gasped out in horror. Was this some kind of joke? You see, Whitney was horrified to see that she had money missing from her bank. She took a closer look and realized that the missing amount was from the restaurant she went to the day before. She thought back to the total amount she saw on the receipt before paying. Although she didn't keep her own customer receipt, Whitney was sure she knew the total amount. But what she didn't know was that someone had well and truly conned her. Whitney was 100% positive that the total meal cost came to $45.50, and then she tipped the waitress $10, bringing the total amount to $55.50. But that wasn't the total Whitney saw on her bank account and statement. The total charge on Whitney's bank account was not $55.50, but instead $65.50. The waitress had completely ripped her off. Whitney wasn't going to stand for this. She posted the incident online, but that wasn't enough for Whitney. No way. Full of anger and betrayal, she went back to the restaurant ready for a showdown. Whitney went back to the restaurant and demanded to see the receipt. However, the manager refused to show it, because the waitress had trashed it and ripped it up. The remains of the receipt showed a $20 tip instead of a $10 tip. But that wasn't the end of it. When Whitney looked at her signature, she realized it had been forged. Whitney's signature on the torn-up receipt nothing like her own, which meant that the waitress had forged it. Whitney was furious and adamant that the scheming waitress should be fired. She ultimately got her wish, and the restaurant fired her. Turns out this waitress had been fired from previous jobs before because of scamming customers.